these on display prior to the anniversary. The astronauts and the closeout crews on the Apollo missions exchanged gifts. They did it during Gemini. These were gag gifts, essentially was what they were. Sometimes serious, but mostly gag gifts. Traces its history back to when they started launching the Mercury astronauts into space. And one of the funnier examples is when John Glenn flies on his first mission, on his Mercury Atlas mission to orbit the Earth. Somebody had taped on the inside of the spacecraft, "No handball playing in here." So you know, it's just kind of a bit of a joke considering how small the Mercury capsules are. So during the Gemini program, lots of things go back and forth. In fact, they tape to the back of Jim Lovell and Buzz Aldrin as they do the final Gemini 12 mission. They tape on their backs V and N as they're walking down the gangway. When Buzz Aldrin has a earlier mission, when he's walking under the spacecraft, or they tape to the front of his helmet an Alfred E. Newman drawing, so the old Mad magazine character, you know, so they, in exchange, because he was going to be doing these lunar operations, a big gigantic set of pliers for his EVA. During the Apollo program, Apollo 14, the Guenter Wendt gave Alan Shepard, who was going to be the oldest man to walk on the moon, a lunar EVA assistance device, which was a cane, so, you know, with all the stuff taped onto it, you know, so they could use it on the moon. And Alan Shepard gave to, and NASA was not happy about this one, Alan Shepard and his crew gave Guenter a World War II Nazi German helmet that had Pat Führer and Colonel Guenter clank on it with swastikas and stuff, so, because he was known as the Pat Führer, because he was German. He actually fought in the German Air Force during World War II. So kind of interesting little thing going on. But when Apollo 11, when the crew was going out to Apollo for the Apollo 11 missions, Neil Armstrong gave to Guenter a certificate. And Guenter's written on here, presented at Pad A, Complex 39 by Neil A. Armstrong, 16th of July, 1969. Good free ride space taxi, good for one round-trip fare between any planet, moon, star, or galaxy in the solar system. No limitations on distance, travel and comfort at the speed of light. Only latest spacecraft used. So that was, you know, what Neil Armstrong gave to Guenter. Buzz Aldrin and Guenter were both Presbyterian lay ministers, and so Buzz presented him with a Good News for Modern Man, a book. Essentially a Bible, the New Testament, and had written on here, on permanent loan to Guenter Wendt in the faith, Buzz Aldrin, Apollo 11. So, but the funniest one was Mike Collins. Mike Collins and the astronauts had all spent time at Guenter's house during their times down in Florida, so he was a big friend to the astronauts themselves, and he would have them over to his house so that they could get away from the media. They could kind of hide out for a while. He'd go out fishing with them. He was an avid fisherman. But Mike Collins had noted that he didn't have any fish up on his wall, even though he was an avid marlin fisherman and everything else. Didn't have any big trout or salmon or marlin or anything else like that. So he determined that he was going to get Guenter and have for his wall a trophy trout. So he gave him, and this was it, you can find pictures of him walking out of the astronaut building with a brown bag next to him. So, and inside the brown bag was this. So, Guenter Wendt's trophy trout. So, now with a fish that's not big enough to even keep, first of all. So, and more funny was that it was actually just recently dead. So, in other words, he had bought it pretty much straight off, you know, or caught it, not sure which. You know, I've got to find out a little bit more on the fact on that one. Had stuck it into the refrigerator, and then the day of the mission just kind of basically nailed it onto this board, and then gave it to Guenter, so it was still fresh, essentially, at that point in time. Guenter was like, great! Yeah, so takes it back, sticks it in his freezer, where it sits for 14 years until he could find a taxidermist who could freeze-dry it in place, kind of thing. So,
what's on the back? Is there writing on the back of that?
Yeah, this trout was given to me by Mike Collins in the White Room on the day Apollo 11 started to the moon. Guenter Wendt, 1969, July 16th. So, and signed by him as pad leader. So, you know, we just have those three items that were presented to us, and they're on We've got him on a long-term loan, so we'll be putting him as part of a display down in the Apollo Gallery as part of the celebration of Apollo 11's landing on the moon. So, that being said, any questions on Russian spacesuits or anything in general?